Of course, flatbreads are great for dipping, but when your flatbread has a pocket in the middle, like my whole wheat pitas, well then that opens up a whole world of possibilities. Pita is a Middle Eastern style of flatbread. So I'd like to show you this recipe and move into the mixer. This is a dough that needs a lot of kneading. So I'm going to use the mixer. You could use electric beaters with the dough hook attachment. If you knead it by hand, it is of course possible. You gotta give yourself a little time. So I've got 1 3/4 cups of warm water, the same temperature as that naan bread. And even though this is a flatbread recipe, it too uses yeast, 1 1/2 teaspoons. So a little less yeast than the naan bread, but I give it a little more time to rise. Now, for pita bread, the type of flour you use is very important. I am going to use whole wheat flour, 1 3/4 cups. The whole wheat flour adds such a nice taste, but also a little added fiber. But I'm not using 100% whole wheat flour. Another 1 3/4 cups is bread flour. Now, bread flour is higher in protein, so it holds in the air that the yeast produces. A teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of sugar so that it puffs up in the oven. And finally, a tablespoon of olive oil. So in the mixer, it does take about 5 minutes to knead the dough. If you're making it by hand, you give yourself a good 7 minutes until it almost looks like elastic bands. That's how you know you've developed the protein. There we go. That climb up the hook means they've been fully bonded, so I can take it out of the mixer. Just flour my hands a little bit, because it is sticky dough. Now I'll also cover this with plastic and give it about an hour to rise. I have one that's already sat for an hour. Look how it's grown. So you want to knock the air out of it at this point. Like the naan, I get 6 portions, and if you want, you can divide the dough just by eyeballing it, but if you've got a scale, I'm going to weigh each piece to 150 grams. You get pretty good at guessing what 150 grams is after a while with a bit of practice. Now, the ease of the naan was the rustic shape. No 2 pieces of naan bread were the same, but pita, you want it all to be the same size. So you need to shape it into a ball. You want to twirl the dough around on your surface without a lot of flour so that the bottom of the dough actually sticks, and you twist the dough away from you and towards you. That'll help build in the pocket, holding in the air. I'll transfer this, and with a bit of practice, you can do 2 at a time. Now, because I've exercised the proteins in the flour and knocked out all the air from the yeast, I have to let these rest another 20 minutes. So I'll cover these up, and I just happen to have some that have had 20 minutes to rest. This time you can put a bit of flour on your surface, pull off the dough, and roll it flat to about 7 or 8 inches. There we go. So not too thin. And I'm just setting these on a baking tray. Don't be afraid to handle the dough. Anytime you challenge your dough, you knock it down, it's gonna allow the yeast to develop more flavor, richer flavor, and a better texture. So now my pita breads need another nap, another 20 minutes to rest so that it puffs up. It's all about building in that beautiful pocket in the center. I'll cover them again with a tea towel. And here we go. After 20 minutes, you can see how they've really puffed up again. So I've preheated 2 baking trays at 450. So my pita are gonna get placed on these hot trays. Just a dusting of flour on the pans. And I'll carefully lift these up and over. I love that the secret to the pocket in the pita is not an ingredient, it's the hot oven at 450 plus the hot trays. Okay, now quickly to the oven. And don't go far, because they only take 6 minutes to bake at 450, and you're gonna wanna see them puff up. Magic of the oven. You really need that 450-degree oven to get that pocket. But if I let these cool just like this, they'll actually dry out. So you open up a tea towel and you stack the pita on top of each other. Now and again, it may happen, you get a pocket that doesn't fully form. So once it's cooled completely, you can wiggle your fingers in there to expand the pocket open. This is a great task for a Sunday afternoon, and then you've got beautiful pita all through the week.